The average car payment in America is now over $750 a month. Let that number sit for a second. $750 every single month. That's more than most people pay for groceries, more than some people pay for rent. But here's the thing, that number isn't even your real cost. There's a second number hiding underneath it, one that most people never calculate. And depending on one decision you make at the dealership, it could cost you an extra $13,000 over the next 6 years without you ever noticing. I want to introduce you to two people, Lisa and Marcus. Same income, same neighborhood, same taste in cars. But they made different decisions, and 6 years later, their financial lives look nothing alike. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly why. And when we run the actual numbers, I promise the result is not what most people expect. Let's start with why leasing feels so smart in the first place. Here's something the car industry figured out decades ago. People don't buy cars, they buy monthly payments. Think about the last time you looked at a new car. Did your brain go to the total price first, or did it go straight to, what's the monthly? That's not a character flaw. That's just how human psychology works. We're wired to prioritize what's immediate and minimize what's distant. Psychologists call it present bias, the tendency to overvalue right now and undervalue the future. Car dealerships didn't discover this by accident. They built an entire business model around it. A $48,000 SUV sounds terrifying, but $399? That sounds like a Tuesday. Your brain anchors to the smaller number. It compares $399 to a dinner out, not $48,000. And that mental shift is worth billions of dollars a year to the auto industry. Leasing makes this even more potent, because leasing gives you something buying can't. The feeling of always winning. New car smell every 3 years, the latest tech, no aging, no depreciation anxiety. It creates an emotional reward cycle that's genuinely hard to resist. You're not just driving a car, you're driving a version of yourself that you like. And that's completely understandable. I'm not here to shame that feeling. But let's stop talking about feelings and run the actual numbers, because numbers don't care about feelings. Let's use a real example. Toyota RAV4 Woodland Edition. Popular, practical, holds value well. Sticker price around $39,900. Marcus decides to buy it. He puts 20% down, roughly $8,000, finances the remaining $31,900 at 6.5% APR over 72 months. Monthly payment, around $537. Over 6 years, interest, around $6,600, insurance, around $1,800 per year, fuel and standard maintenance, around $6,000 over 6 years. Now here's the part most people ignore, resale value. After 6 years, the RAV4 still has real market value. Well maintained, it fetches $18,000 to $20,000 in a private sale. Subtract that from Marcus's total out-of-pocket cost. True cost over 6 years, around $42,000 to $44,000. Now let's look at Lisa. She leases the same vehicle. 2 back-to-back 3-year leases. Monthly payment, $450. Due at signing each time, around $2,500. First month, fees, security deposit. Insurance and fuel the same. Minimal maintenance costs, always under warranty. But here's what Lisa doesn't have after 6 years. She doesn't have a car with $18,000 in equity. She has nothing, 0 asset, 0 resale. Total out-of-pocket over 6 years, around $55,000 to $57,000. Total for Marcus, around $43,000 after resale recovery. The difference? Roughly $13,000. Pause. Let that number sit. $13,000 didn't disappear in one dramatic moment. It vanished, slowly, quietly, $450 at a time. That's what makes it dangerous, and that's where it gets uncomfortable. Now, before you run to the dealership, let me complicate this, because the math isn't fixed, and intellectual honesty matters. Scenario 1. keep the car for only 3 years. If Marcus sells or trades in at the 3-year mark, the resale gap between buying and leasing shrinks significantly. He hasn't fully amortized his loan yet. Depending on the market, he might break even with a lessee or even come out slightly worse if the vehicle depreciated faster than expected. Leases make more mathematical sense the shorter your horizon. Scenario 2. Mileage. Most leases cap you at 12,000 miles per year. Every mile over that limit costs 15 to 25 cents. That sounds small until you do the math. Drive 15,000 miles per year, about average in the US. You're looking at $4,000 to $9,000 in overage fees over a 3-year lease. That completely dismantles the affordability argument. Before you lease anything, calculate your annual mileage honestly, not optimistically, honestly. Scenario 3. Interest rates. Lower rates, say 3 to 4%, make buying dramatically more attractive. Higher rates narrow the monthly gap between buying and leasing, but even at high rates, buying still leaves you with an asset at the end. The pattern shifts, but it rarely reverses entirely. The math isn't fixed, but the pattern usually is. Let me ask you something. What if the real advantage of buying a car has nothing to do with the car itself? Because here's what most finance videos miss. The magic of buying doesn't happen during the loan. It happens after. Marcus makes his last payment. Then something remarkable happens. Nothing. No payment due, no dealer calling, no renewal. For the first time in 6 years, that line item disappears from his budget. If Marcus is even slightly financially intentional, he takes that $537 a month and redirects it, not into a new car payment, into an investment account. $500 a month for 5 years invested in a broad index fund. Even modest historical returns compound to over $35,000. That's not a trick, that's just time doing its job. Lisa, meanwhile, is on lease number 3. Same cycle, same payment, same sense of being current. No equity, no compounding, just a car that's perpetually modern and perpetually expensive. Goal isn't to own a car. Goal, stop paying for one forever. That's the wealth shift hiding inside what looks like a boring transportation decision. Now, in the spirit of intellectual honesty, leasing can make sense. If you run a business and can write off the lease payment as an operating expense, you're paying with pre-tax dollars. That's a legitimate advantage. If your career or brand requires projecting a certain image, real estate, entertainment, sales, the newest car may genuinely have ROI attached. If you're at a life stage where simplicity has real value, no maintenance surprises, no depreciation risk, predictable costs, leasing isn't irrational. It's a convenience premium. Paying more for convenience isn't wrong, as long as you know you're paying more. The problem isn't leasing. The problem is leasing while believing it's the economical choice. Let's come back to Lisa and Marcus. 6 years later, Marcus, paid off car, $18,000 in equity, growing investment account. Lisa, current mileage on a car she doesn't own. Neither extreme, neither a financial genius or disaster. They just made one different decision at a dealership and let time do the rest. Leasing feels cheaper because it hides the total cost. Buying feels expensive because it shows the full picture. There's something almost poetic about that. We avoid the thing that tells us the truth because it's uncomfortable up front. We choose what feels manageable, even when it quietly costs us more over years. Wealth isn't built in dramatic moments. It's built in the boring, consistent ones. A decision in a dealership, a redirected payment, a number you let compound quietly while you live your life. So, let me leave you with a question. Are you a buyer or a leaser? Now that you've seen the full picture, has your thinking changed? Drop it in the comments. I genuinely want to know where you land. Next week, we pull back the curtain on something even sneakier. Why 0.5% APR deals aren't what they seem, and who actually wins when the dealer tells you financing is free. You won't want to miss that one.